All right, so in this episode, we're going to talk about how to pleasure your craft. That sounds really sus, but we're actually talking about marine insurance, whether you're commercial or personal. For whatever reason, they call the personal cover personal pleasure craft insurance, and we'll kick into it now. Welcome to the NZ Guide to Financial Freedom podcast. It's run by the co-founders of a free online learning platform called moneyskills.co.nz, and it has the sole mission of providing every New Zealander the opportunity to live a more fulfilling life. So let's kick into it. Oh, hello everybody. This is going to be in the marine side of things, though it does expand. But it's marine insurance, and I don't know, I haven't really seen any New Zealand-based sort of ideas around this, and it's a little bit neglected. You know, those poor little people out there got their boats, or they're a commercial importer or exporter, and they want to know how to protect the goods because, you know, there's a few chaotic things happening at the moment. So let's jump into it. The two main types of marine insurance are commercial marine insurance or personal pleasure craft insurance. The personal pleasure craft insurance is basically for the personal covering of your boat. So, you know, you think of a jet ski, you've got maybe a luxury yacht if you're living life, maybe a racing yacht, maybe you're going to travel around the world. A friend of mine, her father circumnavigated the globe in a world race, severed his finger, almost lost it. And people enjoy that, apparently. I get seasick, but, you know, people listening to this probably want to learn a little bit about it, what to look for, those sort of things. So, firstly, with the personal side of things, it's similar to car insurance, as you got your two main types: agreed value, market value. Market value is how much they think it's worth. Agreed value is like, hey, let's agree to a value and we'll work off that. Now, how they actually work out how much you're going to pay for your insurance, there's a few things that they take into consideration. So the first thing is what type of boat that you have. Is it, you know, the racing yacht, the luxury yacht, a jet ski? That plays a big part. The second part is how big is the boat. A big boat, it's going to cost more to fix, so they're going to, you know, charge you more because it's a big-ass boat. The second one is age and construction type, so the way it was actually made, because the flow-on for that is if it gets damaged and they need to repair it, then they're going to require more money to be able to do that, so they check for that. Another piece that they'll be thinking about in terms of the cover is actually the skipper's ability. So how can you demonstrate that you had the skills to not have an accident, because they don't really want to pay that out. Same thing with any insurance we've talked about. The house always wins, so they try and work out statistically, are you going to be a type of person that will crash, not crash? So they want to look at the skipper's claim history. Have they made claims before? Do they have the talent and skill to be able to use the boat? And those are the sort of considerations that they'll take into it. There are a few sort of other factors that come into it, but that's sort of the overview of what they look for in terms of what level of cover they'll have for you, and then also the premiums that you'll pay. Now, it works similar in the way that vehicle insurance does. So it will cover, you know, when we talked about vehicle insurance, you had fire, theft, and third party, and then you had comprehensive. So the idea of what it covers is it covers accidental events. So if you accidentally damage the boat, if there was a malice event where someone damaged the boat. The other thing is if there's a fire, if people try and steal things that are inside the boat or the boat themselves. I always wondered that. How do you stop someone stealing a boat? Maybe you experts out there could tell me, but that's what they look for. And the other thing is third party. So if it causes some damage to someone else. So it's sort of like vehicle insurance in that sense, and the fact that it's covered for certain things, you know, accidents and theft and fire and third party if you crash into it. The other thing is if you're transporting it on a trailer, they call it trailering, then there could be some cover around that as well. Now, that's the general idea of the personal cover. And the second part that, you know, would be somewhat niche and people watching this might not actually have this sort of issue, but there's a lot of commercial business owners that are concerned about, you know, they're involved in the transporting of goods by sea, by road, by air, and they want to make sure there's some level of cover that covers them. So the two main types that fall within the commercial marine insurance is liability and cargo. So effectively, what people do, what you do, or someone else does that could put you in trouble. What are you liable for? How can we protect against that? And cargo, how do we protect the vessel and also the things on it? So it's most commonly referred to as marine open cargo or marine cargo open policy. I think that's the better way to say it. The sequence of words don't matter. Look out those buzzwords, it'll come up. And the thing, basically what that is agreeing that, hey, with the merchant, you, the commercial person, and the insurer, you're going into a long-term agreement. It's an indefinite agreement until you guys choose to end the agreement, and it's revisited annually to make sure it still makes sense. What's actually in that marine cargo open policy is basically looks at the general description of the goods that are involved. So what's actually in there, how does it look, that sort of thing. The other thing is, what are the countries that it goes to and from? Because that's an important consideration. There's going to be a lot of legal issues. There's going to be maritime law, domestic and international law. So there's a little bit of humming and hawing on how to work that out. Are there greater risk in different areas? The other thing is they'll look at the maximum level of cover, so the maximum limit of sorts. So what can you be covered up to? Because, they really need to think hard about that. So just from let's say they did the statistics from 2005 to 2017 for anything that was over $500,000 in damage in a single sitting. They calculated how much that was, how much cost that had to businesses in New Zealand, and there was $220 million from 2005 to 2017. And you think about it, you got a whole lot of cargo sitting on a boat. That boat sinks, or something happens, or there's some pollution, or the boat needs some repair to keep it going. And that, that's not a cheap cost. Those big ass boats, you've seen them. There's a reason why they look like they were made in the 1900s, because it's pretty expensive to replace. So that's another reason why you should be considering that. They also, what's involved is the conditions of the insurance, and also how the actual goods will be valued, because you want it to be agreed on like, hey, if we're going to work out how much this is worth, we want to have it in a consistent, systemized way. So they have that in the policy as well. Now with liability, what you might want to protect against, like insurances or the marina, or, things that could happen that you could either cause some sort of liability that you have to pay, or someone else is involved. And there's a lot of pieces that it's involved throughout. So it's important, to think about, hey, should I get this liability cover? Because, there's a lot of things out of my control. Now, the other thing you might think is, okay, well, if it's marine insurance, it's probably just covering things in the sea. But no, it takes into consideration, think of it like a transport cover. It takes into consideration road, rail, air, and sea. So the people that might want to consider it that are in a commercial endeavor would be people that are involved in the importing, exporting of goods, where there could be damage, or you could be liable for damage you've caused as a result of you using, accessing your goods in the way that you did. So some common people that might consider it, so you might have miners, so they might be exporting overseas, and they want to make sure, those goods are protected, because you put all in that effort to try and pull out coal from the land, and you got to be like, whoa, all that effort and I lose everything, not too good. Other people might consider as retailers, so they're importing in scale, or exporting, and they want to make sure they protect the goods. Wholesale, same concept, just at a larger scale. You might have manufacturers, people that are creating goods that are about to be distributed around, or pieces in the overall product that is presented from the retail side of things. So there are a few things you might not even consider a marine insurance, but it's something to think about if you are, involved in the importing, exporting of goods and services. Not so much services, because, you can't really export a service. Just make a course like me with this. So that's the basics of how it works. You've got the personal pleasure insurance, you've got the marine commercial insurance, and within the marine commercial insurance, you've got the cover for liability and the cover for cargo. It's a lot more complex than that. You probably want to talk to someone that's a specialist that's within that field, so then you don't lead down the dangerous road of not knowing sort of the cover that you've got and the implications of it. And same concept, act with the utmost good faith, share everything that you know that could impact the policy, and don't try and be shifty, because all that means is they may not pay it out later. And yeah, that's all. If that was decent, I feel like it would only appeal to a few people, but I appreciate a review just so more people out there can hear about it, or subscribe on YouTube, or leave a comment on something you want to learn. And yeah, appreciate it.